Border reopening talks with Singapore positive. RTM launches its 24-hour news channel. Hello and good afternoon. I'm Mohana Priya. Welcome to Updates at Noon. Malaysia's discussions with Singapore pertaining to the reopening of the country's borders have been positive. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Hishamuddin Hussein also assured that the reopening of Malaysia-Singapore borders would look into standard operating procedures, SOPs, and health protocols which would benefit both countries. Based on his discussions with Singapore's Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan, he said both sides also agreed on the importance of SOPs and health protocols.
And what's important is we take step-by-step approach to ensure the reopening of relations and movements of our people is done smoothly, safely, and it will benefit us in all sectors.
Datuk Seri Hishamuddin pointed out that if the reopening of borders could not even be done with Malaysia's immediate neighbour, Singapore, then it would be harder to navigate the green bubble concept with other countries. The green bubble concept involves easing travel restrictions between two or more countries where local COVID-19 transmission and cases are low. Meanwhile, the government has allowed the entry of healthcare travellers involving critically ill patients who require treatment at the intensive care units, ICU, or high dependency unit, HDU. Senior Minister for Security, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, said the permission was for those categorised under Phase 1A and 1B to be in use during the Recovery Movement Control Order, RMCO, and while international travel restrictions are in force. He said in a statement that the special ministerial meeting on the implementation of the Movement Control Order, MCO, has agreed to allow the entry of foreigners for health tourism purposes. Permission for Phase 1A travellers is only given for travel via air routes, and only one caregiver is allowed to accompany the patient, while for patients under the age of 12, 2 caregivers are allowed. Foreigners involved are required to obtain appointment letters first from hospitals registered with the Malaysia Healthcare Travel Council, MHTC. 100 days since the Movement Control Order MCO took effect on 18th March have seen the country's success in flattening the curve of COVID-19 infection, thus reducing the transmission of the virus in the community. Health Director General Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said to ensure that the country fully recovered and successfully undergoes the recovery MCO, RMCO phase with the new normal of life, the community will have to play a bigger role by adhering to all the advice and standard operating procedures, SOP. In a statement yesterday, Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham said the government's drastic actions at the time, restricting the movement of people and shutting down international entrances, have given Health Ministry the opportunity to increase the capacity of public health, laboratories, health clinics and hospitals, thus flattening the COVID-19 curve. He said the highest number of active cases during the MCO phases was on 5th April with 2,596 active cases, while the number of deaths was 1.67% of the total number of cases. To date, he said the number of active cases has now dropped to just 208 and death rates have dropped to 1.4% of the total number of cases. This, according to him, indicates that Malaysia is in the phase of recovery. He added the ministry was aggressively working in the field to continuously detect, test, isolate and treat COVID-19 cases in hospitals. In the meantime, the hiking area in Bukit Broga, Selangor is ordered to close to public beginning this Saturday. Health Director General Dr. Nur Hisham said the decision was made following reports that groups of hikers there did not observe social distancing rules. In a statement yesterday, Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham said the closure order was issued under Section 18 of the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Act 1988, Act 342. He said the Standard Operating Procedure, SOP, and the new normal, which were frequently stressed by the government, would serve as the country's defence system against the pandemic. Thus, he urged the people not to let their guard down with regard to observing the SOP and the new normal. The permission for the reopening of all registered private tahfiz schools and institutions is in the final decision process, pending discussions with the Department of Islamic Development Malaysia, JAKIM. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli Muhammad Al-Bakri, said to prevent the emergence of another cluster of COVID-19 in tahfiz schools, they would have to study every aspect before allowing private tahfiz schools and institutions to resume operations.
Penubuhan tahfiz tersebut di bawah bidang kuasa negeri sebahagiannya ataupun sebahagiannya mengikut federal ataupun sebahagiannya orang perseorangan yang semuanya kita perlu mengambil kira berdasarkan Kementerian Kesihatan, MKN, Majlis Keselamatan Negara dan juga kerajaan negeri untuk kita tengok dan teliti dengan sebaiknya kerana pengalaman kita sudah berlaku kluster seperti kluster tahfiz yang kita nak supaya tak ada lagi kluster-kluster terkait dengan bahagian agama ini, insya-Allah.
Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli was met after visiting Sekolah Menengah Integrasi Sains Tahfiz and Sekolah Menengah Agama Majlis Agama Islam Wilayah Persekutuan to monitor the reopening of the schools and the teaching and learning process in the new normal post-COVID-19. To date, the number of positive COVID-19 cases detected among tahfiz and madrasah students, teachers and staff members stood at 19,788 of 23,946 individuals screened. Now, the increase in chicken prices following the implementation of the festive season maximum price control scheme was due to limited supply after demand declined during the Movement Control Order MCO. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Dato' Alexander Nantalinggi said the demand for chicken plunged when the business premises, functions and celebrations were not allowed to operate during the MCO period, adding that the situation was temporary and supply was expected to return to normal soon. The minister, in a statement, said the Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry would continue to monitor the situation and take necessary actions as stipulated in the Act under its jurisdiction. He also reminded all industry players, wholesalers and traders to be fair and not take advantage of the current situation. He also advised consumers to conduct price comparisons before shopping for chicken and essential goods via the price catcher apps to get the best prices offered at the right premises. He added that the ministry's enforcement officers would be mobilized to monitor chicken prices at market to ensure that consumers were not burdened by the increase. Radio Television Malaysia RTM has launched a new channel, the Saluran Berita RTM, an additional medium for the government in its fight against fake news and to disseminate accurate information. The new channel, launched by Communications and Multimedia Minister Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah at a ceremony in Angkasapuri, is accessible via My Free View Digital TV on channel 123.
Dan apabila wujud saluran berita RTM, sebenarnya ini menunjukkan yang RTM melangkah satu lagi tahap ke hadapan, dan saya yakin ini satu daripada kaedah di mana bukan sahaja berita itu sahih tetapi juga bagi RTM secara keseluruhannya akan dapat memberikan sumbangan yang lebih besar kepada dunia pemikiran, dunia maklumat rakyat Malaysia.
The minister was speaking in a media conference after the launching ceremony last night. The channel with a theme, Yang Sahih di Berita RTM, focuses on news and news programs and operates 24 hours a day, covering a wide range of languages, namely Malay, English, Mandarin and Tamil. The new channel offers 25 daily news slots, 12 talk shows a week, 5-day business news and 2 magazine programs a week. Meanwhile, Datuk Saifuddin said the media needed to take a new approach in countering fake news by flooding the available space with the accurate ones.
Untuk berlawan dengan berita palsu ni ialah dengan membanjiri ruang dengan lebih banyak berita yang baik, yang sahih, yang benar, dan ini kaedah apabila kita menggunakan ada saluran yang khusus 24 jam.
Saluran Berita RTM will also feature the Pastikan Sahih program, which airs at 6:30 p.m. from Monday to Friday, dedicated to countering viral fake news. The program also aims at disseminating correct and accurate information to the public regarding slanderous statements and fake news, which quickly spreads through social media. CEO with Datuk title nabbed over alleged power abuse. This and more coming up soon. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC has detained a former chief executive officer of a foundation for allegedly misusing his power in the organising of a cycling event in 2016. The man in his 60s, who is a professor with a Datuk title, was held under custody at 10:30 a.m. after he came to give his statement at the MACC headquarters in Putrajaya yesterday. The suspect, during his tenure, was believed to have appointed his company as the strategic partner to organise the cycling event in a northern state with a cost amounting to over 150,000 ringgit. Putrajaya MACC Director Hasbila Mohammad Saleh, when contacted, confirmed the arrests. The case is being investigated under Section 23 of the MACC Act 2009. The suspect was granted bail of 10,000 ringgit. Axiata Group Berhad's digital arms services, Axiata Digital Services Saluran Berita, has secured a strategic investment of $70 million from Great Eastern Holdings Limited to spur its fast-growing digital financial services, or DFS, across the region. With this investment, Great Eastern takes a 21.87% stake in Axiata Digital's DFS business, a Boost Holdings Saluran Berita, while Axiata Digital holds the balance of 78.13%. The investment marked the third strategic investment secured by Axiata Digital from financial industry players.
Great Eastern comes with sort of a deep understanding of the local market, given the strong history and the strong presence in the markets that we serve, especially in the life area. And so this is the segment that we do want to kind of spend a lot of time co-creating products with Great Eastern.
Proceeds from the investment will fund expansion plans for Axiata Digital's DFS business for the next year in Malaysia and the region, which includes securing Boost's next-level push to develop its ecosystem of merchants and customers and potentially housing the digital bank. Earlier this year, Axiata Digital expressed interest in acquiring a digital banking license from Bank Negara Malaysia and has begun preparations for the application.
MERS 999 application system. Getting emergency assistance is now easier. Save Me 999 Police connects the Malaysian public to the police. Save Me 999 Deaf for those with hearing or speech impairments. And Save Me 999 Blind for those with visual impairments. Download now for free on your smartphones. MERS 999 and applications make emergency calls easier.
Police reform bill clears US House, but deadlock awaits in Senate. Democrats pushed sweeping new police guidelines through the U.S. House on Thursday amid a polarizing debate after the high-profile killing of African-American George Floyd sparked nationwide protests and calls for change. The measure, which bans chokeholds and no-knock warrants, restricts officer immunity, combats racial profiling, and establishes a database to track police misconduct, passed largely along party lines. The guidelines sets up a showdown in the Senate where Republican leadership has no intention of passing it. Applause rang out when the bill passed by 236 voters to 181, with 3 Republicans joining the chamber's Democrats in support. President Donald Trump is opposed to the House measure and on Tuesday said the Democrats were aiming to weaken our police and end officer immunity. Instead, he backs a narrower Senate Republican proposal. That measure was blocked by Democrats on Tuesday, and there were no signs of new negotiations. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said her chamber's bill is named after George Floyd, whose final words, "I can't breathe," before his death at the hands of Minneapolis police, changed the course of history of the nation. She said the legislation will fundamentally transform the culture of policing to address systemic racism, curb police brutality, and save lives, as it puts an end to shielding police from accountability. Pelosi and other Democrats have dismissed the Senate measure because it mimics the words of reform while requiring no specific action, while Republicans say their bill will be a good starting point for negotiations. The dramatic collapse of payments provider Wirecard is an unparalleled scandal, Germany's finance minister said after the group filed for insolvency as it admitted that 1.9 billion euros missing from its accounts likely did not exist. Finance Minister Olaf Scholz said the debacle must be a wake-up call that needs more oversight and controls over such financial firms. Wirecard's former CEO Marcus Braun was this week detained on suspicion of falsifying accounts before being released on bail in a saga that has evoked memories of the Enron accounting scandal in the United States. Auditing company EY accused Wirecard of carrying out fraud on a global scale, adding that it had been given false statements when it was pouring through the firm's 2019 accounts. EY said there are clear indications that this was an elaborate and sophisticated fraud involving multiple parties around the world in different institutions with a deliberate aim of deception. The damning assessment came hours after Wirecard filed for administration. Wirecard said it had opened bankruptcy proceedings with a district court in Munich due to impending insolvency and over-indebtedness. Trading in the group's shares was temporarily halted by Frankfurt's stock exchange, but when it resumed, the stocks collapsed, closing at 3.53 euros. Just over a week ago, it stood at around 100 euros. Panama President Laurentino Cortizo fired his health minister and 2 other cabinet members over 2 corruption scandals as the coronavirus pandemic continues to spread in the country. Cortizo promoted Deputy Health Minister Luis Francisco Sucre in place of the sacked Rosario Turner, while also firing Social Development Minister Marcova Concepcion and Housing Minister Ines Samudio. Panama has recorded more than 28,000 coronavirus cases and 547 deaths among its 4 million population, making it the worst affected country in Central America. New cases are accelerating, with 700 a day compared to 200 before the country began reopening economic activity. However, the government is coming under increasing scrutiny over its measures. And it has been weakened by an investigation into suspected corruption in the construction of a prefabricated hospital and the aborted purchase of respirators and sanitizing gel. Despite being implicated in the scandals, Vice President Jose Gabriel Carrizo and Public Works Minister Rafael Sabonge remain in their positions. To make matters worse, Cortizo's Democratic Revolutionary Party, PRD, has been fined $50,000 for violating lockdown measures. Panama is in a first phase of reopening after tens of thousands of people lost their jobs during lockdown. A running gun battle between rival drug gangs left at least 16 people dead in the northwestern Mexican state of Sinaloa. Sinaloa's State Security Minister Cristobal Castaneda told reporters that the clash in the rural community of Tepuche was part of a struggle between two organized crime gangs in the area. Local media reported that the clash involved members of the Sinaloa cartel pitching part of the gang run by the children of ex-leader Joaquin El Chapo Guzman against members led by Ismael El Mayo Zambada, considered the group's number two. The reports pointed to a deep split in one of Mexico's most powerful drug cartels, despite El Chapo's 2016 capture and subsequent extradition to the United States, where he is serving a life sentence. Castaneda said the rival groups had clashed on 8 separate occasions in the area since 29th May. In the aftermath of the shootings, police confiscated 40 high-caliber weapons, 10 grenades, 36,000 rounds of ammunition, and 24 vehicles. The victims were all men aged 20 to 50, and 7 of them have been identified as residents of Tepuche. Recently released from coronavirus lockdown, Europeans thronged shady parks on Wednesday as temperatures soared on the second day of an early summer heat wave that experts fear will lead to new infections as people flout social distancing rules. The European Meteorological Service issued a warning of extreme temperatures from the south to the usually cooler north of the continent, with dangerous heat forecasts for parts of Spain where the mercury could climb as high as 38 degrees Celsius. 7 other countries risked less extreme but potentially dangerous warm weather were Belgium, Estonia, Finland, Latvia, the Netherlands, Portugal and Sweden. According to meteorologist Cristina Simeons of Portugal's Lusa Weather Agency, brought to Europe by a high-pressure system, this was a short episode of heat that will last only until the weekend. As the mercury started climbing Tuesday, beaches, parks and riverbanks saw an influx of hot and bothered Europeans, with images of large groups gathered often without masks or the required 1 to 2 meter infection-safe distance between them. In Britain, where temperatures are expected to approach but not break the 35.6 degrees Celsius record set for June in 1976, health officials have expressed concerns about the continued defiance of social distancing requirements. Coming up in sports, 30-year wait is over as Liverpool crowned Premier League champions. But first, the Education Ministry will make every effort to continue the construction project of the Malaysian Sports School in Bukit Cabang, Perlis, which had been abandoned for the past 8 years. Deputy Education Minister Muslimin Yahya said the process to re-tender the project would be made immediately.
Pendekat Kementerian Pendidikan, kita serius sangat untuk memastikan bahawa sekolah-sekolah itu akan dapat dilaksanakan dan ditempuhkan. Itu sebabnya kita antara kriteria pemilihan syarikat kali ini kita memilih syarikat yang ada 4 bintang. Penerapan 4 bintang tu bukan datang daripada kita. Biasanya datang daripada JKR dan sebagainya. Kan? CIDB dan sebagainya. Jadi kalau anda kata syarikat itu memang ada penerapan tersebut, kita akan memberi keutamaan.
The project, costing about 140 million ringgit, should have been completed in February this year. Liverpool were crowned Premier League champions on Thursday as Chelsea's win over Manchester City ended the Reds' 30-year wait to win the English title, with jubilant fans ignoring social distancing guidelines to converge on Anfield. Jurgen Klopp's men sealed a 19th league title with a record 7 games remaining after defeat for second-place City left the champions for the past 2 seasons 23 points adrift. Liverpool, who were tantalisingly close to glory when the coronavirus forced the shutdown of English football in March, demolished Crystal Palace 4-0 at their home ground of Anfield on Wednesday to stand on the brink of the title. City needed to win at Stamford Bridge to keep the Premier League alive, but slipped to a 2-1 defeat. Liverpool tweeted, "We are Premier League champions," seconds after the final whistle, where Manchester City tweeted their congratulations. Liverpool captain Jordan Henderson hailed Klopp's transformational impact on the club. Thousands of Liverpool fans, many in face masks, streamed towards Anfield despite restrictions still in place due to COVID-19. They lit flares and sang songs. Cars also gathered outside the ground with some beeping horns as they passed. Liverpool have clinched the title earlier than any other Premier League champions, breaking the previous record of 5 games left shared by City and Manchester United. But it has been an agonising wait for Liverpool fans across the world, with the coronavirus lockdown forcing them to put the champagne on ice. French clubs on Tuesday voted to maintain a 20-team League One next season, knocking on the head a proposal to expand the league to 22 clubs that would have saved Amiens and Toulouse from a relegation. Amiens and Toulouse had both been condemned to the drop as the bottom 2 sides when the season was ended early in April due to the coronavirus crisis, but went all the way to court to argue that their relegation from the top flight was unjust and arbitrary. Earlier this month, France's highest administrative court blocked their relegations, while a judge ordered that the French League, LFP, re-examine with the French Football Federation the proposed format for the top division next season. That could have meant the league being expanded by 2 teams, with promotions still standing, while relegations were annulled. However, a General Assembly of top-tier clubs, as well as players and coaches on Tuesday, saw them vote 74.49% in favour of maintaining a 20-team league. The statement released by the LFP read that the vote followed an in-depth study into the consequences of a League One of 20, 21 or 22 clubs on the fixture calendar for next season and on the health of players. Australia and New Zealand will host the 2023 Women's World Cup after the country's joint bid was chosen by FIFA on Thursday. Now, the overwhelming favourites won ahead of their only rival Colombia, with Japan having withdrawn its own bid earlier in the week, and Brazil, Argentina, South Africa and a joint Korean bid already having fallen by the wayside. The 2023 tournament is set to be the first 32-team Women's World Cup, up from the 24 nations who competed at last year's finals in France, won by the United States. It will be the 9th Women's World Cup. The joint proposal by Australia and New Zealand will see games played in 13 venues across 12 cities in July and August 2023, with the opening match at Eden Park in Auckland and the final in Sydney. 7 cities in Australia will host games and 5 in New Zealand. Thursday's vote came at a video conference meeting of the 37 members of the FIFA Council as football and global sport in general struggles to get back on its feet in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. The Australia and New Zealand bid was given the highest score of 4.1 out of 5 in an evaluation by World Football's governing body published earlier this month. And that concludes today's edition of Updates at Noon. In our top story today, border reopening talks with Singapore positive as both sides agree on SOPs and health protocols. Join us again at 7 p.m. for more updates on the latest happenings from around the world. I'm Mohana Priya. Thanks for your company.